Listen to me very carefully, because I am only going to say this once, and what I am about to tell you is going to make you angry. And good anger is the only appropriate response to what just happened to your financial future. The Supreme Court of the United States just handed down a 920 ruling, and not a single mainstream financial outlet is explaining what this actually means for your wallet, your portfolio, and the purchasing power you have spent your entire working life accumulating. This isn't a political debate. I don't do politics. I do money. And right now, the money is telling me that 330 million Americans just had the ground shifted under their feet while they were busy watching sports and scrolling on their phones. You need to stop. You need to sit down. And you need to pay attention to what I am about to walk you through, because your financial survival depends on it. Minus, if you are watching this channel for the first time, hit that subscribe button right now, because the information I give away here for free has saved people hundreds of thousands of dollars in bad decisions. I have clients who pay me $5,000 an hour to hear exactly what I am about to tell you, and you are getting it at zero cost. The only thing I ask in return is that you subscribe, hit the bell, and share this video with someone who still thinks they are safe. They are not. None of you are. Not yet. Let me tell you exactly what just happened, because the headlines are burying the lead in mountains of political noise, and nobody is cutting through to the financial truth. The Supreme Court issued a 9-0 unanimous ruling, and when I say 9-0, I want that number to hit you like a cold bucket of water. That is not a partisan decision. That is not a left versus right split. That is every single justice appointed by Republicans and Democrats alike agreeing on something simultaneously. In the history of American jurisprudence, unanimous rulings at that level are extraordinarily rare, and when they happen, they are almost always seismic in their downstream consequences. This one is no different. The ruling restructures the framework around which states can regulate and restrict firearms. And what that means practically is that every single state, all 50 of them, now has to recalibrate its legal posture around gun ownership, gun commerce, and gun liability. And here is where the money enters the room. The moment legal frameworks shift at that scale and that speed, three things happen without exception. Lawsuits multiply, compliance costs explode, and capital repositions itself. That last point is the one I need you to understand down to your bones. When capital repositions, it moves away from uncertainty and toward predictability. And right now, uncertainty is the only commodity being produced in abundance across this country. The numbers don't lie. There are over 400 million firearms in civilian circulation in the United States. That is more guns than people. The domestic firearms and ammunition industry generates roughly $70 billion annually in economic activity. Insurance markets, legal defense markets, retail markets, and municipal budgets are all directly or indirectly tethered to the regulatory status of those guns. When a 9-0 ruling rewires that regulatory status overnight, you are not watching a political story. You are watching a $70 billion industry enter a period of turbulence that will shake money out of unprepared hands and into prepared ones. Are you prepared? I already know the answer, and that is why we are here. Minus. Now let's talk about why you personally, sitting in your house or your apartment with your savings account and your 401k and your little brokerage portfolio that you check on your phone every morning, are exposed to this ruling in ways you have not even begun to consider. You're broke and you don't even know it, not in the sense that you have no money, in the sense that your money is positioned in a way that makes it vulnerable to exactly this kind of structural disruption. And you have no idea, because nobody has ever sat you down and explained how legal earthquakes transmit into economic ones. Here is the mechanism. When a Supreme Court ruling of this magnitude drops, the immediate impact is felt in state legislatures, which scramble to rewrite statutes. That legislative scrambling creates regulatory uncertainty, which forces businesses, gun retailers, manufacturers, insurers, distributors to spend enormous sums on legal compliance, lobbying, and restructuring. That spending is not productive spending, it is defensive spending, and it comes directly out of profit margins. Companies with thin margins get crushed. Companies with fat margins and legal war chests survive and consolidate market share, this is textbook capital concentration, and it happens every single time the legal landscape shifts at scale. Now ask yourself, where is your money sitting? If you have holdings in diversified retail funds that contain consumer discretionary stocks, if you have municipal bond exposure in states that are now facing massive legal compliance costs, or if you simply have your cash sitting in a savings account earning 3% while inflation eats 4, you are already losing. You are losing right now, today, while we are having this conversation. I don't care about your feelings. I care about your money. And your money is bleeding quietly while you argue with strangers on the internet about whether this ruling was right or wrong. Stop being a victim. The market does not care about your political opinions. It only cares about the flow of capital, and capital is already moving. The states in the most acute panic right now are the ones with the most aggressive existing gun regulatory frameworks: California, New York, Illinois, Massachusetts, New Jersey. These are also, not coincidentally, some of the most expensive states to live and operate a business in. Their compliance costs are about to go higher, their litigation exposure is about to expand, and their tax bases, already strained, are going to take hits that trickle down to municipal services, property values, and the cost of capital for small businesses. If you have real estate exposure in those markets, or if you are a small business owner operating in those states, I need you to be very awake right now. Here is what nobody on television is talking about. And I mean nobody, because it requires a level of financial literacy that most commentators simply do not possess. What this ruling has done, functionally, is trigger one of the largest involuntary wealth transfers in recent American history, and it is happening in slow motion, which is exactly why most people are going to miss it entirely and wake up 5 years from now wondering what happened to their net worth. The mechanism of this wealth transfer is straightforward if you understand how legal disruption interacts with asset markets. When a major legal framework changes, it creates what economists call an asymmetric information environment. The people who understand the change first, institutional investors, large legal teams, well-capitalized corporations, reposition their assets before the market has fully priced in the consequences. The people who understand it last, retail investors, small business owners, working and middle-class families, absorb the losses that the first group avoided. This is not a conspiracy. This is just how capital works. It flows towards speed and knowledge, and it flows away from slowness and ignorance. Cash is trash. I need you to understand this in the context of what is happening right now. Every day, you sit in cash, sitting on the sidelines because you are confused or scared or waiting to see how this plays. Out is a day you are losing ground to inflation, to market repositioning, and to the people who are not waiting. The winners in this environment are not going to be the people who had the right political opinion about this ruling. They are going to be the people who looked at the ruling, asked the correct financial questions, and moved first. The correct financial questions are these: which sectors benefit from regulatory expansion? Which companies have the legal infrastructure to absorb compliance costs that their smaller competitors cannot? Which asset classes historically outperform during periods of prolonged legal uncertainty? The answers to those questions point towards specific, measurable, actionable investment decisions. And the people making those decisions right now, while you are still processing the emotional shock of the headline, are the ones who will be richer in 3 years than they are today. The people still arguing about whether the ruling was fair are going to be poorer. The numbers don't lie. They never do. Let me tell you exactly what the losers are going to do next, because I have seen this pattern repeat itself with absolute mechanical reliability across every major legal and economic disruption of the last 30 years. The loser's playbook is always the same, and it always produces the same result, which is financial deterioration disguised as principled behavior. The first thing losers do is wait. They say they want to see how this develops. They say they are doing their research. They say they will act once there is more clarity. What they are actually doing is freezing in the face of uncertainty, and that freeze is costing them in real time. Markets do not wait for clarity. Markets price in expectations And by the time clarity arrives, the trade is already over. The people who waited for clarity in 2008 missed the greatest buying opportunity of a generation. The people who waited for clarity in March 2020 missed 100% plus recovery in 18 months. Waiting is not a strategy. Waiting is how the poor stay poor. The second thing losers do is emotionalize the decision. They make their financial choices based on how the ruling makes them feel, rather than what the ruling means numerically. They sell out of sectors they personally disagree with on moral grounds, ignoring the fact that their pension fund, their 401k, and their index funds are already invested in those sectors, whether they like it or not. They make loud, performative financial decisions that feel like activism and function like self-sabotage. I have watched people righteously divest from industries they disliked and lose hundreds of thousands of dollars in returns they will never get back while feeling absolutely wonderful about themselves. Stop being a victim. Your moral performance does not pay your bills. The third thing losers do is consume instead of invest. They buy things. They buy merchandise. They donate to causes. They spend money signaling their position on the issue. And they do all of this with money that should be working for them in the market. This is the defining financial characteristic of the loser class. They turn every external event into an opportunity to spend rather than an opportunity to build. You are either a winner who looks at disruption and sees repositioning opportunity, or you are a loser who looks at disruption and reaches for your wallet to buy something. The market does not grade on a curve, and it does not reward good intentions. Now, let me give you the actual mathematical solution, because unlike every other person talking about this ruling, I'm going to give you a specific numerical actionable framework that you can begin implementing this week, not this year, not next quarter, this week. Step 1, audit your current exposure. Pull up every account you have, 401k IRA, brokerage, savings, and categorize your holdings by their sensitivity to the legal and regulatory environment that just changed. If you have significant exposure to consumer discretionary retail in high regulation states, that exposure carries elevated risk. Right now, quantify it, put a number on it. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. Step 2, identify the 3 sectors that historically outperform during extended legal uncertainty cycles. Those sectors are, in order, legal and compliance services, which see revenue expansion during regulatory turbulence, defense and security adjacent industries, which benefit from both the political climate and the legal repositioning, and financial services companies with significant arbitrage capacity, meaning the ones large enough to profit from the complexity that smaller competitors cannot navigate. These are not hot tips. These are structural observations backed by 30 years of data across comparable disruption cycles. Step 3, apply the 10% reallocation rule. I am not telling you to blow up your portfolio. I am telling you to take 10% of your current holdings, just 10%, and deliberately reposition it toward sectors that benefit from the environment we are now in rather than the environment we were in 6 months ago. 10% is not a bet. It is a hedge. And a properly executed hedge in a disruption cycle can generate returns that offset losses across the remaining 90% of your portfolio. Step 4, stop holding cash beyond a 3-month emergency reserve. Cash is trash. In an environment where inflation is running persistently above the risk-free rate on savings products, every dollar you hold in cash is a dollar you are paying someone else to hold for you while it loses value. Your emergency fund stays liquid. Everything above that threshold goes to work. No exceptions. Step 5, extend your time horizon by 5 years in your head. The biggest financial mistakes I see people make in disruption cycles come from compressing their time horizon. They think in terms of what the market is doing this month, this quarter. Winners think in terms of 5 and 10-year structural shifts. This ruling is not a one-week story. It is a 5 to 10-year legal, regulatory, and economic restructuring process. And the people who position for the full cycle rather than the immediate headline will be the ones who build real, durable wealth out of this moment. The numbers, as always, do not lie. A 10% repositioning into the right sectors during the previous two major legal disruption cycles, post-Heller in 2008 and post-McDonald in 2010, produced average outperformance of between 18 and 32% over the following 36 months relative to passive index exposure. That is not speculation. That is historical fact. And the only question is whether you are going to use that fact or ignore it, minus if. So here we are. I have given you the ruling. I have given you the mechanism. I have given you the loser's playbook so you can avoid it. And I have given you a 5-step mathematical framework. You can begin executing right now, today, before this video is even finished. The only question left is the one that separates every winner from every loser in every market cycle I have ever witnessed in 30 years of doing this. Are you going to act? Or are you going to watch? You are either a winner who looks at this ruling and sees a repositioning opportunity, or you are a loser who looks at it and keeps scrolling. There is no middle ground. The market does not offer a middle ground, and I certainly do not subscribe to this channel. If you want to keep getting this level of analysis for free, share this video with someone who is still asleep, and leave a comment below with the one action you are going to take this week, not this month, this week. Show me you are not a victim. Show me you are paying attention. The clock is running and the capital is already moving. The only question is whether it is moving for you or against you.